Hello! Hey, welcome. This is the Genesee County Compassion Club Show. What's going on, everybody? I'm your host, Jeremy, back in the studio here at allpointstv.com. Glad to be back here. Is today the first day of fall, John?
Officially, yeah.
Officially!
Yep.
Yeah, man, it feels like it's still summer. I'm glad to say that.
Well, that does that. So then it's like it holds off for a week or two, and then it goes.
Yeah,
okay,
exactly.
We're going from fall to winter, and then we'll get to first snow, and late middle of October or something like that.
Absolutely. So, but yeah, it's absolutely gorgeous out. It is, let's say, September 23rd.
23rd, yep.
Bingo.
Yeah, you're 2 for 2, man.
2 for 2. Oh, hey, welcome. Thanks for joining me today. I'm going to be talking about medical marijuana here in Michigan. Going to be letting you know what's happening down at the Genesee County Compassion Club. We've got some events and activities taking place down there. I want to keep you up to date, let you know what's happening. Of course, we've got John behind the camera here making it happen at All Points TV. Everybody say hi to John. Hi. They're all screaming at you right now, man.
I can see John. I remember the Romper Room. Well, you don't remember Romper Room, do you?
Who?
Romper Room was a TV show for kids.
It sounds Romperoo.
Romper Room.
No.
Yeah, it's like, and they had the woman.
Kangaroo. Captain Kangaroo.
Kangaroo was on. You remember him?
Yeah.
It was around at the same time. I don't think it was as big as Captain Kangaroo.
Okay. I only got 3 channels back then.
We all did.
Exactly.
Except
we all did.
If you live by Detroit, you got 5 channels. I think you got Channel 50.
You guys are living the life of luxury.
We covered at Channel 50. Channel 50 was like actually groundbreaking back in that era.
Well, I remember when I got Channel 47 in Lansing, and I think it was Fox back at the time, and it was like, yes. So, all right, but hey, we got a lot of stuff going on here. Obviously, want to talk about what's happening down at the Genesee County Compassion Club. We got some cool stuff coming up here. This Friday, just 2 days from now, September 25th, don't forget we've got our soup kitchen. That's down at the North End Soup Kitchen. It's hosted by the Catholic Charities, and we like to go down there, help serve. We'd like to have your help if you can. If you can't make it, you can always make a cash donation, which goes directly to the soup kitchen. And we usually meet right around 2 p.m. on Friday at the club. Head on over, make some food, and serve it up. And you're done by about 5 p.m. So about 3 hours is all it takes. Usually only need a handful of folks. If you've got time, we can appreciate your help. And, we like to do this once a month. So let's get it on. So 2 days, Friday, 2 p.m., be there, serve some food, feel good. All right? Right after that, next day, this Saturday, is our last Adopt a Highway. This is our, we do it 3 times a year. This is the 3rd time. We're cleaning M13. Going to start at 10 a.m., I believe. 9 or 10 a.m. at the club. Going to go out to M13, going to clean it up, and we're usually done by noon. We come back and eat, which is awesome. We love to eat. So, but it should be pretty easy this time. Should be beautiful weather, and we've already cleaned it twice this year, so it should be a nice, actually, kind of like a walk in the park, hopefully. But we do want to get out there. We want to make sure our highway's clean before the winter season comes. This is our last chance to do that, and we'd like to have your help. The more the merrier. It's like a 2-mile walk, so it's not too bad. And like I said, you couldn't ask for better weather, I don't think. It's gorgeous right now, and it's supposed to last. It's supposed to hold in there. So keep your fingers crossed, and hopefully I'll see you guys Saturday morning. But looking forward to that. So let's get into the meat and bones here. I walked into the club today, had a couple people ask me questions about the bills, the medical marijuana bills that were featured in the paper here on MLive. And I'm glad to see you guys are reading the paper and keeping up on things, making sure you're paying attention. We've been talking about the bills here on the podcast, so if you haven't seen the previous episodes, you might want to look them up. But we'll get into those today, actually, and try to make sure we can clarify as much as we can. We've got these set of bills here that have been introduced now, been rolling around in the House and the Senate for about 2 years, really. And the reason that you're hearing about it now is because, like I said, MLive had featured featured an article in their paper, on these bills yesterday. And the reason it was brought to the paper's attention was because there was an additional substitute that was amended or added to the bill yesterday in the House. And we're going to talk about that today. But just to clarify, that's why it was in the news, just because this substitute had been added to the bill, kind of like an amendment, a little add-on, if you will. The bill has not yet been passed. It still has to go yet through the Senate, through the House, so on and so forth. It's got a bit of a ways to get through before it does get passed, but it is gaining support. I had a lot of people ask me, what do you think? Is this going to go through or not? Right now it's hard to tell, but I can tell you that there are more and more representatives and senators who are throwing their support into these bills, and obviously the more support that they get, the more their cronies are going to go along with whatever they say. And yeah, so there's a possibility that this could pass. I don't know for sure, obviously, but that's why we need to get involved. So let's talk about these bills a little bit. Of course, I'm talking about Bill 4209. This is part of a package bill. It's packaged up with Bill 4827. There's also another bill out there that's circulating along with this, and it's not T-barred like this is. And T-barred simply means that, okay, if 4209 passes, 4827 also has to pass, and they got to go together to work as a system. 4827 is the tracking part of the bill, and the 4209 is really the meat and bones of the bill. So, but at any rate, there's still time for these to be inputted on, and we need you to contact your representative and your senator here in Michigan and let them know how you feel. What these are going to do are going to establish a secondary system for the medical marijuana patients here in Michigan. And by a secondary system, what I mean to say is that this is an entirely different path of getting and producing medication than the current system. Right now we've got the patients and caregivers who work together. This system is completely different and completely outside of that system. So here's the deal. This is what they're saying right now about these two different systems, the one that they're proposing and the one we already have. They're saying that there's going to be no changes to the current system. So if you're currently a patient or caregiver and you want to stay that way, if everybody wants to stay that way, then it can, and you can go about your business. However, if you want to participate in the new system, i.e. you want to be getting your medication from a center or something like that, then you can no longer be a patient in the old system. You have to kind of relinquish your old rights and go on to the new rights, if you will. Same thing for caregivers. If you were a caregiver previously, now you want to be a so-called producer, and we'll get into that a little bit more of what that is. But let's say you want to do that. You want to participate in the new law that they're proposing. You would no longer be able to be a caregiver once you decided to do so. So if you were employed at one of these new facilities, or if you happen to own one or something like that, you could no longer be a caregiver in the old current system that we have now. So just to clarify how this is going to work and how the language is being tossed around, when in rebuttal to people saying, well, hey, just leave things alone. And they're saying, well, we're gonna leave things alone. This is just going to be an addition to what's already there. But I think as you get into the details and as I'm going to explain to you today, you're going to see that even though these systems are allowed to coincide side by side, there is certainly a push to direct people from the old to the new. And the reason I say that is because there are provisions in these bills that specifically say, like I just mentioned, if you want to be part of the new system, you can't be part of the old one. So, take it as for what it's worth. But yeah, I think they're definitely trying to push people into this new type of system versus keeping you in the old one. Even though they're saying you could stay there if you want to. But all right, so let's get into this a little bit. Like I said, we've got two bills. 4209 and 4827. 4209 is the meat and bones of this. What they're proposing is a whole brand new system for medical marijuana, and it's going to revolve around a licensing board. This is a board that would be established by the state, and the state would essentially, it would have the power through that board to dictate everything about the program. Okay, how it's going to run, when it's going to run, where it's going to run, who it's going to run, you name it. These guys are going to decide it. From how much it's going to cost to how much you can actually do, so on and so forth. This board would ultimately have ultimate power over how this new system would be in place. And believe me, with the current regulations and the current administrations that we have in place, if we look at the current LARA departments and their performances in regards to medical marijuana, you can only imagine the kind of debacle this is going to be if we have a whole new licensing board with people who are in charge of that board that really have no understanding or knowledge of this industry that we're talking about. And they certainly have no compassion or no insight into what people really need this for as far as medication. The reason I say that, if you look at the current example of Michigan's LARA department, which recently has declined to approve what the board approved to adding on a recommended condition, which was autism. Recently, our state went through the process of petitioning and trying to add on autism as a qualified condition for medical marijuana here in Michigan. And the board that got together to review this is the state's appointed medical board, got together and they said, yes, we agree. They voted on it and they said, based on our vote, we think, yes, that this council approves autism to be added as a qualifying condition for medical marijuana here in Michigan. And the director of the program, and along with our assistant governor or lieutenant governor, Brian Calley, just decided on their own will that there wasn't enough research to support this decision, even though that medical board that decided it would be okay was formed by doctors. They decided on their own free will that, and of course in our interest, that's not a good idea. And they declined to follow through on the board's recommendation to add this as a condition. So if we can't get simple things done like that, where the people who are in charge don't even honor their own people's advice, the qualified people's advice, and they just go on about whatever they decide they want to do, that's the kind of leadership and directorship that you're going to get on this medical marijuana licensing board that would be established through this new bill. So I know there's a lot of folks out there that are reading this bill and thinking, okay, cool, this is going to offer up some new business opportunities, and we're excited about that. Well, let me back you up first, because before you go out and you get licensees for these types of facilities, you first have to have this board establish the process, the fees, the administration, and then once that's done, then you have to go back to your local municipality, get them to approve your plan. Then once you get their approval, then you'll go back to the state board, and then they will decide whether or not your plan will be approved. So this is going to be an administrative nightmare if this goes through the way that it is. You can talk to folks out in Colorado, and while they continue to rave about the success of the program for the recreational business out there, there's also a lot of holdups and waiting for state licenses going on out there. And in addition to that, I'd like to point out the Colorado system is for recreational, and what we're talking about here is for medicinal. So we're referring to basically a collective population here of about 125 to 150,000 people who are currently registered in Michigan's marijuana program. If you add up the number of patients and caregivers together, that's approximately the number that we're looking at here. So this is a small percentage of the population, and to go establish a whole new board to regulate a very small niche market industry that's for a very select group of the population, I think it's overboard and excessive. And I'm not one to support expansive government. I think it's unnecessary. But this bill here, 4209, goes through great lengths to establish an administrative body and also the full-time employee positions that would be established underneath that body to operate the entire system. And what I'm talking about, if you look in the summary here, you will see that the state is allocated funds that will be collected from taxes from the sale of your medical marijuana. These funds will be collected and then allocated so that they can add on 34 new full-time employee positions to the state police to allow for added administration that would be necessary to conduct this new medical marijuana program. I'm not sure if I agree with that, but that's what the state says they need, 34 new state police officers. They're also saying that they're going to need, let me see if I can find the number here, but I remember reading through it, it was above 30 new employees also at Lara's department to conduct the licensing and the paperwork and the administration that would be necessary for this program.
I got something to add here too. Is this related to me? And I don't know the full facts. I haven't read the bill itself, but there's Michigan Senate Bill 384, which is supposed to basically do enforcement of laws for, regarding possibilities for fraud for welfare, and also it's connected to the allegedly it's connected to Obamacare or the Affordable Care Act or whatever, that they can actually have these cops basically enforce laws by going into people's homes and having weapons and be able to arrest them. So I can see this dovetailing quite well with what they already with that 384. When you bring this up in the after effects,
sure.
I can see this being a recipe for disaster and for just surrendering all of our rights.
Well, and I think you're going to see this type of legislation continue on, where you're finding there's going to be other future bills completely unrelated to marijuana or medical marijuana, where you're going to see packaging start to happen, where they're saying, okay, as a part of this bill, we want to also generate funds for these specific new positions that we can add on. And what they're trying to do is be able to spin that back around and say, hey, look, we were able to add on 300 new jobs last year. Well, 300 new government jobs, that's not an economic supporter. I mean, if you have any type of understanding of how economies work, civil jobs do not support the economy. The economy supports them. So let me get back into this. 34 new state employees at the state police, 113 new full-time employees for licensing at Lara. So I apologize. I just said above 30. Yeah, well above 30. 113. And again, this is in addition to the new board that would be established. It doesn't really specify the exact number that would be on that board. I think there's, it could be up to like 20 members or something. Also, an additional 4 full-time employees for the Attorney General's office, because apparently they'll need 4 more employees to help conduct licensing and regulation and oversight and all of that for this new medical marijuana program. So we're looking at, a generation of approximately 150, close to, new government jobs for this new medical marijuana program. So you're telling me that for every 10,000 people out there, you need a government worker to take care of their paperwork, something that you only renew once every 2 years? That's ridiculous.
Isn't that great, though? They're so concerned about us.
Let me get into this a little further, John. You're going to like this, because specifically, it even goes farther to, specifically state when it comes to the Attorney General's office. It says the Department of the Attorney General will provide 4 full-time employees for legal and prosecutorial support related to medical marijuana at an annual cost of $500,000. So essentially, these 4 new employees are walking off with a $125,000 salary per year to go after prosecuting the medical marijuana people that this is supposed to license. Does that make any sense to you at all? It should not.
Working overtime to put us in prison or put us in the poorhouse, either way.
Yeah, so basically I'm going to allow this to be licensed, but then I'm going to go ahead and hire 34 new employees at the police officer's place and 4 new prosecutors over here to, prosecute people that are trying to participate in this program. This is crazy. So anyways, if you look at the summary, they're breaking this down as far as cost-wise, and what they're also doing, really, if you haven't understood the concept of what this bill is, they're talking about, again, House Bill 4209. What they're doing is they're, again, establishing another system for medical marijuana, and this new system is ran by the state. That is the main thing you need to focus on right now, folks, because I know there's a lot of folks that are talking about how it's going to break down in these different businesses and so on. It is going to be run by the state, all right? And that's after you get local permission from your local municipality, who will also be very well entwined with your business in doing inspections, licensings, applications, fees as part of the deal. So, this is not a good bill. I would highly encourage you to support calling your representative and your senator and letting them know that, hey, we like the current program. We do not want to see changes like these. But let me get into a couple more things here. So we talked about the fact that they're T-barred. We talked about the cost that's going along with these bills. The fact that they're going to be operating side by side, and there's kind of a squeeze going on. But what it is establishing is an industry that basically models our current alcohol industry. So there's a producer, there's a transporter, there's a processor, there's a tester, and then there's a distributor. Okay, so essentially 5 different businesses that the state is saying would be mandatory in order for this whole system to work. So you'd have to have all 5 of them as a patient be operational to be able to get any medication. You need to understand that first off. So if there's one that exists but the other one doesn't exist, you still can't get your meds, because in the bill it's written that, let's say if you're a processor and you're growing plants, you're licensed by the state, you're now doing, let's say you got license A, which is up to 500 plants, and you're growing them. Once those plants are done growing, you have to now employ a transport company to come and take that cannabis from the growing facility to the processing facility, which would be owned by a different company as well. And so now the grower is going to be selling to the transporter sells to the processor back to the transporter, who then takes it to the tester, who then picks it up from the tester after it's passed its test and takes it to the distributor. So this is a very complicated system. I think a highly unnecessary type of system. And it is modeled, like I said, exactly right after the current alcohol system that we have in place here in Michigan. So why are we modeling our medicinal programs after something that is, considered recreational, a sin tax, type of item? And it's also regulated in similarities to the gambling, which it says so right here in the bill. So at any rate, that's what we're looking at here, folks. So they want to build this new program. They want to put it out there. It is gaining support. And I would recommend that you call your representative or your senator. I mean, I'm going to keep saying that today because that is really the only thing that you can do. All right? You got to look up your Michigan representative and your senator on Michigan Google. Just go to Google, type in Michigan legislature, and then type in your area, find my senator or find my representative. It's real simple. But you need to give them a call. And all you got to tell them is, hey, House Bill 4209, please don't support that. That's not the kind of change I'm looking for. I'm currently in the program, and I would like to see improvements, but not like that. One more thing I want to definitely throw it your way, and hopefully this will also encourage you. They're also proposing that there would be an 8% sales tax on all medical marijuana. That was part of the substitution that was submitted yesterday. Previously in the bill, they had said that, okay, the centers that would be involved in getting the licensing, that they would be subject to a tax, and I believe the tax was 10%. So they would be subject to this tax. Now they're imposing another tax that would be passed on directly at the point of sale to the patient of 8%. So more money that they're trying to siphon out of you, basically. And you have to understand that if you break this down and you no longer have a caregiver who's providing directly to the patient, and now it has to go through 5 different businesses to get to the patient, plus it has to be taxed twice, obviously the patient is going to have a lot more expensive product than what they previously had. You have the cost of the licensing, you have cost of making sure that each product is now tested, that each product is now properly tracked, because that's also part of this bill, which is 4827. Which is an extensive tracking system that requires producers, distributors, transporters, testers to track every single piece of medication from seed to shelf to sale, so that if there's ever a problem, it could be recalled and taken back off, which that sounds like a great idea. I don't necessarily argue with that type of concept. The problem is that we're passing those costs mandatorily onto the patients, and I don't think it should be I don't think they should not have a choice. I think they should have the ability, as they still currently do. And again, they're saying, well, you can still be a patient or a caregiver in the old program. We're not going to change the old law. This new law doesn't affect it. And like I said, to an extent, that's correct. However, if you look at the nature of how they're trying to set up this industry, it is purposely built to try to squeeze out the people who are in the current program and convert them into the new one. And I don't think that's the way to go. I think that's just a big money grab for the state. Obviously, they're trying to add on over 150 positions onto the state's government. And in addition to that, they're also siphoning off funds to be given for the general fund, for scholastic fund, for local municipalities, so on and so forth. So they basically think that all the patients out there that are using medical marijuana in Michigan should be paying their fair share because of the fact that now you're using an alternative medication. Well, I think most of us already pay our fair share of taxes. And, I know a lot of folks said, well, hey, let's tax and regulate. Hey, I don't necessarily disagree with that argument. But again, if you remember, when we said tax and regulate, that was for recreational cannabis, not medicinal. And I have to ask again, what other type of medicine do we treat like this? And the answer is none. There is none. And it is a total disregard for the folks that have chosen this as a medicine. It is a total disregard for the scientific evidence that has been displayed of how this medicine is useful. I mean, it's a slap in the face to reality. And really what it is, it's a big, greedy money grab. So, hey, I want to see the industry grow. I want to see us transgress into the next thing. I understand that there's places in Michigan that are not as kind as Genesee County, and so it can be difficult for patients to access their medication. What I'm letting you know, though, is that this type of proposed bill, 4209, is not the answer. And that's what I'd like you to convey to your local representative and your local senator. They're going to probably be voting on these sets of bills here this fall. Very likely. They will go through committee, then they will go over to the Senate, and then we'll have to watch. And the only thing you can do about it is call your representative or call your senator and say, please do not support 4209 or 4827. So, you guys want to look this up? If you want to read more about the bill, I'd recommend you go to michiganlegislature.gov, go into bill search, type in 4209, pull it up, excuse me, and go to the summary. Go to the summary that was submitted on September 21st, which was yesterday, 2 days ago, and it basically summarizes the bill for you, so you don't have to read all 60 or whatever pages it is. If you want to read all of the pages, it's right at the top there. It says House Introduced Bill. You can download it as a PDF. Check it out. But hey, if you don't get involved, they're going to railroad you. That's all. That's my advice. That's the truth. And unfortunately, right now, there's a lot of folks out there somewhere, obviously, that feel like they're going to be a benefactor from this law passing, and they're working their butt off to get it passed. So if you like things the way they are, I'd suggest you work your butt off to not get it passed. If you guys have questions, I'd be glad to talk more about the bill on the show. We've been covering it pretty extensively for the last 2-3 weeks. So like I said, if you missed previous episodes and you want to know more about the bill, or at least more of my opinion about it, you can check out those podcasts at All Points TV. And, the biggest thing is, like I said, get involved. You got to let these people know, or they're going to rob you blind. I mean, it's the bottom line. All right, that's all I have for this week. There's nothing that's more important right now. And, like I said, I had some folks asking about that, and I appreciate the fact that you guys are starting to take interest and get involved, because this program is, remember, for you, by you. You know what I mean? This is a straight up FUBU law. It doesn't get any better than this. How many other laws were written by citizens and passed by citizens? And the answer is none. I mean, this is the one. This is the one law on the books that the people put in there. And I just pray that you guys don't let them screw it up. You know what I mean? How dare they go screw up the one thing that you actually put in? And, I don't know. To me, it's appalling. So, all right, that's my rant. That's my rave. I hope you guys get involved. I hope you guys feel the fire. And I hope you guys join me here again at allpointstv.com. This is the Genesee County Compassion Club show. I hope to see you guys on Friday or Saturday. If you can volunteer, we really appreciate it. It's going to be awesome. And I definitely want to make sure I remember and mention we do have Outdoorfest coming up. It is October 31st. It's going to be a fantastic celebration. We're going to have the Outdoor Growers Cup. We're also going to be having some, I think there was a costume contest going on. And we're going to have free snacks and candy. It's a free event that we're holding at the club. It's going to be a lot of fun. And again, that's Outdoorfest, which is October 31st. So put that on your calendars and plan to have a good time. Other than that, thanks for joining me, guys. John, you got something there?
No, I just think that it's like I just think people should be aware of what's going on with that 384 plus the two bills.
Yeah.
The three bills you're talking about, because I could just see them working as a perfect storm to take away everything we got. Another thing is, too, October 1st, the internet sales tax for the state of Michigan residents takes effect. So that's all it is. It's a money grab. These people will not scale back. And then look, you're talking about adding jobs. They're adding jobs. They're at our expense, and they're wondering why they're not bringing the state along to a point where they can actually have a recovery, if ever possible.
Yeah, these guys are so drunk on power that they think that adding 150 jobs, government jobs, is an economic activity booster. They really honestly believe like they could pull themselves around and say, I added 150 jobs. Well, I mean, seriously, adding 150 civil jobs is basically adding on another 150 civil suckers. You know what I mean? And we need civil suckers, okay? I'm not trying to say that, like, we don't need police and fire and teachers and stuff like that. We need them, okay? But that is not an economic booster. You cannot turn around and say, like, oh, we've added jobs and say that as a positive thing when the only jobs you added were civil ones.
Yeah, I had an argument with this with a college professor years ago, and he was supposed to be an expert in psychology, and it just had a piss poor understanding of economics.
Yeah.
And this guy was he was a PhD, esteemed in his area of expert. He was a psychology teacher. Yep. And he's sitting there adding, he said, actually, government jobs do add to the economy. I'm sitting there like, how?
Yeah.
Basically, it's like having a rummage sale where you and your wife are buying stuff. You want to go for a trip, and then you're not buying your own stuff, and then you wonder why you don't have money for the trip.
Yeah,
That's basically what it is.
And theoretically, any job is a positive to the economy, even from an accountant's sense. But you still have the expenses and so on and so forth, and obviously we're not talking about the same thing. So I mean, apples for apples here. You know what I mean? But all right. Anyways, yeah. No, we got to get involved because these guys in charge, they're goofballs. Obviously, I mean, look at the ones they tell you about. Imagine the things they don't tell you about. All right, John, thanks for being with me here this week, man. I appreciate it. It's too nice to be inside. You guys need to get out there and enjoy the last few days of summer. I know it's the first day of fall today, but we only got a few more days that are going to feel like this, and it will be over. So get out there, get whatever you got to do outdoors done, and enjoy it. Other than that, right? Cool. Otherwise, you guys have a fantastic week. Go get a sandwich at the Growing Concern. Slap your buddy on the back. Tell him you love him. Whatever, man. Have a good one. All right. Thanks for joining me on the Genesee County Compassion Club show at allpointstv.com. See ya.